Commander Zekthor walked into the classroom with heavy steps. His forearms moved stiffly, and the metal leg that replaced his real one made a soft clicking sound on the floor. The young cadets from different alien worlds sat up straight in their chairs. They had heard stories about the old commander, but seeing him was different. His scaled face bore deep scars that ran from his forehead to his jaw. Where his left eye should have been, there was only an empty socket covered by a metal patch. The cadets stared at him with wide eyes, some whispering to each other about his missing parts. Zekthor stood at the front of the room and looked at each young face. There were Ketharians with their blue skin and long necks, Vorthon with their insect-like bodies, and Drexy with their furry appearance. All of them were eager and excited, ready to hear tales of great victories. "I am Commander Zekthor," he said in a voice that sounded like gravel. "I fought in the first human war 20 years ago. I am here to tell you about that war." A young Ketharian cadet raised his hand. "Sir, we studied the humans in our classes. They are a primitive species, right? They only learned to travel between stars 50 years ago." Zekthor's remaining eye focused on the cadet. "Yes, that is correct. 50 years ago, humans first left their home system. When we found them, they had only 12 colonies. Their ships were slow and their weapons were simple." The cadet smiled and nodded. This was what they expected to hear. Stories about how the mighty hegemony crushed weak enemies. Zekthor pressed a button, and a holographic display showed the galaxy. Red dots marked hegemony worlds, and blue dots showed human colonies. The human territory looked tiny compared to the vast red area of the hegemony. The Hegemony Council decided that humans should join our empire. Zekthor continued. "We sent diplomatic ships to their worlds. We offered them a place in our great civilization. All they had to do was accept our rule and follow our laws." A Vorthon cadet clicked his mandibles. "And they refused? How stupid were they?" "Very stupid," laughed a Drexy cadet. "Did they think they could fight the entire hegemony?" Zekthor did not smile. He stared at the laughing cadets until they became quiet. "Yes, they refused. The human government sent back our ambassadors with a simple message. They said no, just no," asked the Ketharian cadet. "Just no," Zekthor repeated. "No explanation. No counteroffer. No begging for mercy. Just no." The room was quiet now. The cadets looked confused. Why was their teacher so serious about such a simple thing? Zekthor touched his metal eye patch. The council was insulted. No species had ever refused the hegemony's offer to join peacefully. The council decided to use force. They believed it would be quick and easy. He pressed another button. The hologram changed to show fleet movements. I was a young captain then, commanding the heavy cruiser Dominator. My ship was part of the first attack force. We had 500 ships. The humans had maybe 50 ships protecting their entire territory. The Vorthon cadet shook his head. 500 against 50? The humans must have surrendered immediately. That is what we thought, Zekthor said. That is what any smart species would have done. But humans are not like other species. He walked closer to the cadets. His metal leg clicked with each step. Before I tell you what happened, I need you to understand something important. In all the wars the hegemony has fought, our enemies were rational. They fought for territory, for resources, for honor. When they realized they could not win, they surrendered. This is normal. This is how civilized beings act. The cadets nodded. This made sense to them. Humans do not follow these rules, Zekthor said. His voice became darker. Humans fight differently. They think differently. They are willing to do things that no civilized species would consider. A young Drexy cadet raised her furry hand. What do you mean, sir? What things? Zekthor looked at her for a long moment. Before I answer that, let me ask you something. What would you do if an enemy captured your homeworld and killed your family? I would be very angry, the Drexy said. I would want revenge. Good. And if that enemy was much stronger than you? If fighting them meant certain death? The cadet thought for a moment. I would probably surrender. Or maybe join a resistance group and fight secretly. Reasonable answers, Zekthor said. Now let me tell you what humans do in that situation. They do not just want revenge. They want to make sure their enemy can never hurt anyone again. Ever. He pressed the button again. The hologram showed a single star system. This is where it all began. The Zephyr system, a small mining operation run by humans. Nothing important. Just a few thousand miners digging metals out of asteroids. The hologram zoomed in to show the mining station. It looked simple and peaceful. Our intelligence said the station had no military defenses, no warships, no soldiers, just miners and their families. It seemed like the perfect place to start. We would capture the station, show the humans how hopeless their situation was, and force them to surrender. Zekthor's remaining eyes stared at the hologram. I remember thinking it would be boring, like arresting criminals, not fighting a war. The cadets leaned forward in their chairs. They could tell something bad was coming. My squadron approached the station. 12 heavy cruisers against a mining platform. We sent the standard surrender demand. We told them to shut down their equipment and prepare to be boarded. Zekthor paused. The room was completely silent. The humans sent back a message. Just 2 words. "Come take it." The Catharian cadet frowned. "That is not a surrender." "No, it is not," Zekthor agreed. We thought they were being brave but stupid. We moved closer to the station. That is when we learned our first lesson about fighting humans. He touched his scarred face. The mining station was not defenseless. The humans had hidden weapon systems inside the mining equipment. Laser drills became laser cannons. Mining explosives became torpedoes. Cargo ships became missile platforms. The cadets gasped. "They tricked you." "They did more than trick us," Zekthor said. "They showed us that humans can turn anything into a weapon. Even their tools for peaceful work became instruments of war." The hologram showed the battle. Explosions lit up the space around the mining station. We lost 3 ships in the first attack, 3 heavy cruisers destroyed by miners. But that was not the worst part. Zekthor looked at each cadet. The worst part was what happened when we boarded the station. We sent troops inside to capture the survivors. We expected them to surrender once they saw our soldiers. He was quiet for a long moment. They did not surrender. They kept fighting. Even when they were badly hurt. Even when they had no chance to win. They fought until they died. The room felt cold. The cadets did not laugh anymore. But that was still not the worst part, Zekthor continued. The worst part came at the end. When we thought we had won. When we thought the station was ours. His voice became very quiet. The humans activated their mining charges. All of them. At the same time. They destroyed their own station and everything in it, including my ship. Zekthor touched his metal leg. That is how I lost my leg. And my eye. And most of my crew. Because humans would rather die than lose. The cadets stared at him in shock. No one spoke. That was our introduction to human warfare, Zekthor said. And it was only the beginning. Commander Zekthor sat down heavily in his chair. The cadets watched him with new eyes. They were no longer excited about hearing war stories. They looked worried and confused. After the Zephyr incident, the Hegemony Council was angry. Zekthor said, 3 heavy cruisers destroyed by miners? It was embarrassing. The council decided to send a much larger force. He pressed a button and the hologram changed to show a new star system. This is the Kepler system. Humans had built a large colony there. Almost 1 million people lived on the main planet. The council wanted to capture it intact to show other humans what happened when they resisted. A Vorthon cadet raised his hand. How many ships did the Hegemony send this time? 200 warships, Zekthor answered. Admiral Corvin commanded the fleet. He was one of our best military leaders. He had conquered 12 different species for the Hegemony. The cadets nodded. 200 ships sounded like enough to handle any human tricks. Admiral Corvin was careful, Zekthor continued. He studied the Zephyr battle reports. He knew humans might have hidden weapons, so he decided to attack from far away first, destroy their defenses from a safe distance, then move in to capture the planet. The hologram showed the Hegemony fleet approaching the human colony. The human ships came out to meet us. 50 vessels against our 200, small fighters and converted cargo ships mostly. Nothing that should have worried us. Zekthor paused and looked at the cadets. But something felt wrong. The human ships moved strangely. They did not form up in battle lines like normal fleets. Instead, they scattered in all directions. Were they running away? Asked a Drexy cadet. That is what we thought at first. But they were not running. They were setting a trap. The hologram showed the human ships spreading out around the Hegemony fleet. Human ships are faster than ours. Not stronger, not better armed, but faster. They use this speed to surround us. Zekthor stood up and walked to the hologram. Then they did something no military academy teaches. Instead of fighting ship to ship, they began ramming our vessels. The cadets gasped. Ramming? But that would destroy their own ships too. Yes, it would, Zekthor said grimly. And it did. But here is what we did not understand about humans. They do not count the cost the same way we do. A human pilot would ram his small fighter into our battleship, destroying both vessels. To him, this was a good trade. The Catharian cadet shook his head. But the human pilot would die. That is correct. He would die, but he would take our much larger ship with him. And our ship had 300 crew members, so one human death would cause 300 hegemony deaths. Sekthor's voice became darker. We lost 30 ships in the first hour. Not to superior weapons or better tactics. We lost them because humans were willing to die to kill us. The hologram showed the battle continuing. Human ships dove at hegemony vessels like angry insects. Admiral Corvin ordered the fleet to retreat to a safe distance, Sekthor said. We would bombard the planet from far away where the human ships could not reach us. That sounds smart, said the Vorthan cadet. It was smart, Sekthor agreed. It should have worked. But humans do not think like we do. The hologram changed to show the planet's surface. While we were fighting their ships in space, the humans on the planet were busy. They were not building shelters or preparing to surrender. They were preparing to fight back. Sekthor pressed another button. The image zoomed in to show human cities. Humans turned their entire planet into a weapon. They built missile launchers in their schools. They put gun turrets on their hospitals. They hid soldiers in their homes. The cadets looked disturbed. But those are civilian buildings. Yes, they are. But humans do not separate military and civilian the way we do. To them, everyone is a soldier when their world is threatened. Sekthor touched his scarred face again. When we began bombing the planet, something happened that shocked Admiral Corvin. Instead of begging for mercy, the humans sent us a message. What did they say? Asked the Drexy cadet quietly. They said, "Thank you for showing us where your ships are. Now we know where to aim." The hologram showed missiles launching from the planet's surface. Hundreds of them, all aimed at the hegemony fleet. Humans had turned their mining equipment into giant guns. Sekthor explained. Equipment meant for digging deep holes in the ground. They pointed these machines at the sky and used them to shoot at our ships. The Vorthan cadet clicked his mandibles nervously. Did the missiles reach you? Some did. We lost 6 more ships to weapons made from mining gear, but that was not the worst part. Sekthor walked back to his chair but did not sit down. The worst part was what the humans did next. They sent us videos. Videos? Yes. Messages from the planet showing us what was happening down there. Humans were destroying their own cities rather than let us capture them intact. The cadets stared at him in horror. They blew up their factories so we could not use them. They burned their farms so we could not eat their food. They collapsed their mines so we could not take their metals. Sekthor's voice became very quiet, and they smiled while they did it. In the videos, humans were smiling as they destroyed everything they had built. The room was silent except for the soft humming of the holographic projector. Admiral Corvin realized he was not fighting a normal war. Sekthor continued. Most species try to preserve their civilization even when they lose. They surrender to save their people and their culture. But humans would rather destroy everything than let enemies have it. He pressed the button again. The hologram showed damaged hegemony ships retreating from the Kepler system. We withdrew from Kepler after losing 46 ships. 46 ships destroyed by a species that had only learned to fly between stars 50 years earlier. The Catharian cadet raised his hand slowly. Sir, what happened to the humans on the planet? Sekthor looked at him. They survived. Most of them. They had built underground shelters before we arrived. They planned the whole thing, so they won? They did not win in the traditional sense. Their planet was badly damaged. Many of their people died. But they achieved their goal. What was their goal? Asked the Vorthan cadet. To show us that conquering human worlds would cost more than it was worth. To prove that even if we won, we would not really win. Sekthor sat down heavily. After Kepler, some hegemony commanders wanted to give up and leave humans alone. They said the cost was too high. But the war continued, said the Drexy cadet. Yes, it continued. Because other commanders were angry. They said the hegemony could not back down from a primitive species. They said it would make us look weak to the rest of the galaxy. Sekthor looked tired suddenly, much older than his years. So the council decided to escalate. If humans wanted to fight dirty, we would fight dirty too. The cadets shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The council sent me to command a special squadron, Sekthor said. Our job was to study human tactics and develop ways to counter them. We were supposed to figure out how to beat humans at their own game. He looked at each cadet. That assignment taught me the most important lesson of the war. What lesson? Asked the Catharian cadet. Zekthor's remaining eye stared at the hologram showing human space. The lesson is this. When you fight humans, you do not become better at war. You become more like them, and that is a very dangerous thing to become. The room fell silent again. The cadets looked at their teacher with new understanding. They were beginning to realize that the war stories they wanted to hear were not the kind of stories anyone wanted to live through. Tomorrow, I will tell you what happened when the hegemony decided to fight humans using human methods, Zekthor said. Class dismissed. The cadets filed out quietly. No one was laughing anymore. The next day, Commander Zekthor entered the classroom to find the cadets already seated and quiet. Word had spread about his previous lesson. More cadets had come to listen. They sat with serious faces, no longer expecting heroic tales. Zekthor noticed the change in the room's atmosphere. I see you have been thinking about what I told you yesterday. A new cadet, a young Catharian with bright green scales, raised her hand. Sir, my instructor said humans are just lucky. That any species would fight hard when their home is threatened. Zekthor looked at her for a long moment. Your instructor never fought humans, did he? No, sir. He studied the war from records. Records do not show you everything, Zekthor said. Records do not show you what it feels like to fight an enemy that learns from every mistake. An enemy that gets better every time you face them. He activated the holographic display. It showed a timeline of the war with dates and battle names. After Kepler, the Hegemony Council gave me a new mission. I was to command the Special Operations Squadron. Our job was to study human tactics and develop countermeasures. The hologram zoomed in on a section marked Adaptability Studies. We decided to test human responses to different attack methods. We would attack their colonies in specific ways and see how they reacted. Then we would attack the same way again to see if they had learned. Zekthor pressed a button. The display showed a small human outpost called Haven Station. Haven Station was our first test. It was a supply depot for human ships, lightly defended. We attacked it with conventional tactics, direct assault, overwhelming force. The simulation showed hegemony ships approaching the station in standard formation. The humans fought hard but lost quickly. We captured the station and took prisoners. Standard military operation. A Vorthon cadet raised his hand. That sounds normal. What was the test? The test came 6 months later, Zekthor said. We attacked another supply depot. Same size, same defenses, same tactical situation. We used exactly the same attack plan. The hologram showed the second battle. This time the humans were ready for us. They had studied our tactics from the first attack. They knew exactly what we would do and when we would do it. The display showed human ships moving in patterns that perfectly countered the hegemony formation. We lost half our attack force in the first 10 minutes, Zekthor said quietly. The humans had turned our own tactics against us. The cadets looked confused. But how could they know what you would do? Because humans learn from pain, Zekthor explained. Every defeat teaches them something new. Every loss makes them stronger. He changed the display to show multiple battles happening across human space. We realized that humans were sharing information across their entire military. When we defeated one human force, every other human force learned from that defeat. The Drexy cadet shifted nervously. That is efficient. Efficient, yes, but also terrifying. It meant that every battle made all future battles harder for us. Zekthor walked closer to the cadets. But we thought we were clever. We decided to use random tactics. Different approaches every time. Surely humans could not adapt to chaos. The hologram showed a new battle at a place called Frontier Base 7. We attacked this base using completely random methods. We changed our formation every few minutes. We used different weapons in unpredictable patterns. We gave no warning and followed no standard procedures. The display showed hegemony ships moving in confused, chaotic patterns. For the first hour, it worked. The humans could not predict our moves because we had no plan. We were winning through pure confusion. Zekthor paused. Then something happened that changed my understanding of human warfare forever. The cadets leaned forward. The human commander sent us a message. In the middle of the battle, while his people were dying, he sent us a message. What did he say? Asked the Catharian cadet. He said, "Thank you for the training exercise. Please continue." The room went silent. "Training exercise?" whispered the Vorthan cadet. "The human commander was using our random attacks to train his people," Zekthor explained. "Every time we changed tactics, his crew had to adapt quickly. Every unpredictable move we made forced them to think faster." The hologram showed the battle continuing. Slowly, the human responses became faster and more effective. By the end of the fight, the humans were matching our chaos with their own improvisation. They turned our randomness into their advantage. Zekthor sat down heavily. "That day I learned that humans do not just adapt to your tactics. They adapt to the fact that you are adapting. They learn how to learn." The display changed to show a series of increasingly complex battles. Over the next year, we tried everything. Surprise attacks, long sieges, economic warfare, information warfare. Every method we used, humans found a way to counter. A young Drexy cadet raised her hand. "Sir, what about fighting them in space? Away from their planets where they could not use mining equipment and civilian facilities?" Zekthor's remaining eye focused on her. "An excellent question. Yes, we tried that too." The hologram showed vast empty space with two fleets approaching each other. The Battle of the Void Ring. Open space, no planets, no asteroids. Just our ships against their ships. Pure military combat. The display showed hundreds of vessels on each side. We had superior numbers, better armor, more powerful weapons. In every measurable way, we were stronger. The battle simulation began. The fleets closed distance and opened fire. For the first few hours, everything went as expected. We had the advantage. We were winning. Zekthor touched his metal eye patch. Then the humans showed us something new. They began working together in ways we had never seen. The hologram zoomed in on human ships. They were moving in perfect coordination like a single organism. Human ships started sharing everything. Power, shields, weapons, even crew members. When one ship was damaged, nearby ships would extend their shields to protect it. The Vorthan cadet clicked his mandibles. "That requires incredible coordination." "It requires more than coordination," Zekthor said. "It requires trust. Complete trust." Each human captain had to trust that others would risk their own ships to save his. The simulation showed human vessels forming protective clusters, sacrificing some ships to save others. We had better technology, but humans had better teamwork. They fought like a pack of hunting animals, each one willing to die for the others. The hologram showed the final result. The hegemony fleet retreating with heavy losses. We lost that battle not because our weapons were weak, but because humans understood something we did not. "What was that?" asked the Catharian cadet. "They understood that individual strength means nothing if you do not work together. A human ship captain would sacrifice his own vessel and crew to save two other ships. To him, this was logical." Zekthor stood and walked to the hologram. But the most disturbing thing happened after the battle. He pressed a button. The display showed human rescue ships moving through the wreckage. Humans came to rescue our survivors. They saved hegemony crew members from destroyed ships. They treated our wounded in their medical bays. The cadets looked puzzled. "That sounds nice?" "It was terrifying," Zekthor said. "Because while they were saving our people, they were also studying us. Learning about our biology, our psychology, our technology." The display showed human medical staff examining alien patients. Every hegemony survivor they rescued became a source of intelligence. They learned our weaknesses by healing our wounds. The room felt cold suddenly. 3 months later, humans attacked us using weapons specifically designed to exploit our species' biological vulnerabilities. Sonic weapons that disrupted Catharian hearing, gas weapons that affected Vorthan breathing, light weapons that blinded Drexy eyes. Zekthor looked at each species of cadet. "They learned how to hurt us by learning how to heal us." The Drexy cadet spoke in a small voice. "They used mercy as a weapon?" "They used everything as a weapon," Zekthor replied. "That is what makes humans dangerous. They do not see a difference between helping and fighting. Both are just methods to achieve their goals." He deactivated the hologram. The room seemed darker without its light. By the end of the first year, hegemony commanders stopped making detailed battle plans. There was no point. Whatever we planned, humans would find a way to counter it. Zekthor returned to his chair. Instead, we started focusing on one simple strategy: avoid fighting humans whenever possible. The cadets sat in stunned silence, but the war continued for 3 more years, said the Catharian cadet quietly. "Yes, it did," Zekthor agreed. "Because the Hegemony Council decided that if we could not outfight humans, We would have to break their will to fight. His voice became very quiet. That decision led to the darkest part of the war, and that is what I will tell you about tomorrow. Commander Zekthor arrived at the classroom to find it packed with cadets. Word had spread throughout the academy about his lectures. Even some instructors had come to listen. The room was completely silent as he entered. Zekthor looked at the crowd of young faces, all different species, all staring at him with a mixture of fear and fascination. He could see they were beginning to understand something their textbooks had never taught them. Yesterday I told you how humans adapt to any military tactic. He began. Today, I will tell you what happened when the Hegemony Council decided to stop fighting human soldiers and start targeting human civilians. The room became even quieter, if that was possible. 3 years into the war, Admiral Vextar took command of all hegemony forces. He was known for his brutal methods. He believed that humans would surrender if they suffered enough losses. Zekthor activated the holographic display. It showed the human colony world scattered across their territory. Admiral Vextar studied human psychology reports. He learned that humans have strong emotional bonds to their families and communities. He decided to use this against them. A Kytherian instructor raised her hand. Sir, what exactly did Admiral Vextar plan to do? Zekthor's remaining eye stared at the hologram. He planned to destroy human agricultural colonies, the worlds where they grew food to feed their population. The cadets gasped. Attacking food production was considered barbaric by most civilized species. The plan was simple, Zekthor continued. Destroy their farms and starve their people. Force them to choose between surrender and watching their children go hungry. The display zoomed in on a peaceful-looking planet covered in green fields. This is New Iowa. Farming world with 2 million human civilians, mostly families who had never been soldiers. They grew grain and vegetables that fed a dozen other human colonies. Zekthor pressed a button. The display showed hegemony ships approaching the planet. I was ordered to participate in this attack. My squadron was to destroy the agricultural facilities while the main fleet bombarded the cities. His voice became very quiet. I want you to understand something. I followed those orders. I am responsible for what happened next. The room was completely silent. Even the instructor stopped taking notes. The attack began at dawn local time. We came out of hyperspace and immediately began bombing farms, storage facilities, and food processing plants. The hologram showed explosions across the planet's surface. The humans did not fight back at first. They had no military ships in the system, no weapons that could reach us in orbit. They sent surrender messages begging us to stop. Zekthor paused. For a moment I thought the plan was working. I thought humans would finally act like a rational species and give up. But they did not surrender? Asked a Vorthon cadet. No, after 6 hours of bombardment, the surrender messages stopped. Instead, we received a different kind of message. Zekthor pressed another button. An audio file began playing. A human voice, calm and clear, spoke in perfect hegemony standard language. To the hegemony fleet, you have made a mistake. You have chosen to attack our families. You have declared war not just on our soldiers, but on our children. This changes everything. We will show you what humans become when you threaten our young. The audio ended. The room remained silent. At first we did not understand what the message meant, Zekthor said. We continued the bombardment. By the end of the day, New Iowa's food production was completely destroyed. The hologram showed a planet covered in smoke and fire. Admiral Vextar was pleased. He believed we had broken human morale. He ordered similar attacks on 6 other agricultural worlds. Zekthor's metal leg clicked as he shifted position. For 2 weeks, we destroyed human farms across their territory. We waited for their government to contact us with surrender terms. Did they surrender? Asked a Drexy cadet quietly. No, instead, something else happened. Human military forces across the galaxy went silent. The display changed to show communication patterns. Normal military chatter suddenly stopped. Human fleets stopped responding to our communications. Their patrol ships disappeared. Their trade routes went dark. It was as if their entire military had vanished. A Kytherian instructor frowned. Where did they go? We found out 3 weeks later, Zekthor said grimly. They came for us. The hologram showed the hegemony fortress world of Drakmor. It was one of their most heavily defended planets. Drakmor was our main supply base in human territory. 50,000 hegemony personnel, defense platforms, shield generators, fighter squadrons. It should have been impossible to attack. The display showed massive defensive installations around the planet. The humans attacked Drakmor with forces we had never seen before, ships painted completely black, no identification markings, no communication attempts. They just appeared and began killing everything in the system. Zekthor's voice became haunted. These were not the same human forces we had been fighting. These soldiers were different. They had new uniforms, new weapons, new tactics. Different how? Asked a Vorthon cadet. They took no prisoners. They showed no mercy. They destroyed everything, military and civilian alike. The hologram showed the battle for Drakmor. Human ships moved with mechanical precision, systematically destroying every hegemony vessel and installation. The attack lasted 18 hours. When it was over, nothing was left alive in the Drakmor system. 50,000 hegemony citizens dead. The cadets stared at the display in horror, but that was only the beginning. Zekthor continued. Over the next month, these black ships appeared at 7 more hegemony worlds. Each attack was the same. Complete destruction. No survivors. The timeline showed a series of red dots marking destroyed hegemony colonies. We called them Reaper units, human forces that seemed to exist only to kill. They did not try to capture territory or resources. They only destroyed. Zekthor touched his scarred face. I encountered a Reaper unit at the Proxima mining station. My squadron was escorting supply ships when they appeared. The hologram showed a different battle, human ships emerging from hyperspace like black ghosts. They did not demand surrender. They did not send warnings. They simply opened fire and began hunting down every ship in the system. The display showed hegemony vessels being systematically destroyed one by one. I managed to escape with 2 ships from my squadron. 12 others were destroyed. But that was not the worst part. Zekthor walked closer to the cadets. The worst part was what I saw when my ship's sensors picked up the human vessels up close. What did you see? Whispered a Drexy cadet. The human ships were not just black. They were covered with markings. Names and symbols painted on their hulls. Zekthor's voice became very quiet. The names of the agricultural worlds we had destroyed. New Iowa, Green Valley, Harvest Moon. Each ship carried the name of a farming colony. The room was completely silent. I realized that the Reaper units were not regular human military. They were volunteers, people who had lost family members in our attacks on the farming worlds. The hologram showed close-up images of the black ships with their memorial markings. Humans had created military units composed entirely of people seeking revenge, soldiers who fought not for duty or honor, but for personal vengeance. A Catharian instructor spoke up. That explains their ruthlessness. It explains more than that, Zekthor said. It explains why they were so effective. When you fight for revenge, you do not worry about your own survival. You only care about making the enemy pay. The display changed to show tactical analyses of Reaper unit operations. These human revenge units developed tactics that no military academy would teach. They would sacrifice 10 ships to destroy 1 hegemony vessel, as long as that vessel contained important personnel. Zekthor returned to his chair. Admiral Vextar tried to respond by targeting more civilian colonies. He thought he could intimidate humans into stopping their revenge attacks. Did it work? Asked a Vorthon cadet. No, it made things worse. Each new civilian target we attacked created more volunteers for the Reaper units. The hologram showed the exponential growth of human revenge forces. Within 6 months, we faced an enemy that grew stronger every time we hurt them. Every attack we made against their civilians created more soldiers who wanted us dead. Zekthor looked at each cadet. That is when I learned the most important lesson about human warfare. What lesson? Asked a Drexy cadet. Never threaten human families. You can fight their soldiers, you can attack their military bases, you can even conquer their worlds. But if you threaten their children, humans will hunt you across the galaxy until one of you is extinct. The room remained silent for a long moment. Admiral Vexitar was removed from command after losing 47 worlds to Reaper units. Zekthor said. The new commander, Admiral Thekvar, decided to try a different approach. What approach? Asked a Catharian cadet. Zekthor deactivated the hologram. He decided to end the war quickly, before humans developed even more dangerous weapons. The commander looked tired suddenly, very old and very sad. Admiral Thekvar launched the largest military operation in hegemony history, 5,000 ships, a direct assault on Earth itself. The cadets gasped. Tomorrow I will tell you what happened when the hegemony tried to destroy the human homeworld, Zekthor said, and I will tell you why that was the biggest mistake we ever made. On the final day, Commander Zekthor entered a classroom that was now standing room only. Cadets, instructors, and even some high-ranking officers had come to hear the conclusion of his story. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone knew this was the lesson that would explain how the mighty hegemony had been forced to make peace with a species they had considered primitive. Zekthor looked at the crowd and nodded slowly. Today I will tell you about the end of the war. But first I need you to understand what the hegemony was thinking after 3 years of fighting humans. He activated the holographic display. It showed casualty reports and resource expenditure charts. By the 4th year of the war, we had lost over 600 ships and 200,000 personnel. The war was costing more than the conquest of any 12 other species combined. The numbers glowed red in the hologram, showing the enormous cost of the conflict. Worse, human forces were growing stronger, not weaker. Every battle taught them new tactics. Every defeat made them more dangerous. Zekthor pointed to a graph showing human military capability over time. The line curved steadily upward. Admiral Thekvar realized that if the war continued, humans might eventually develop the ability to threaten hegemony core worlds. He decided to end the conflict with one massive decisive battle. The display changed to show the largest fleet ever assembled by the hegemony. Thousands of ships in perfect formation. Operation Final Strike. 5,000 hegemony warships would attack Earth directly. The plan was to destroy the human homeworld so completely that their remaining colonies would surrender immediately. A Catharian officer raised his hand. Sir, that seems logical. Without their home planet, humans would have no choice but to give up. Zekthor's remaining eye focused on the officer. That is what we thought. We believed that every species has something they will not sacrifice. For humans, we assumed it was their birth world. The hologram showed the massive fleet moving toward the Sol system. I commanded a heavy battle group in that fleet, 300 ships under my direct control. We were confident this would be the final battle of the war. The display zoomed in on the Earth system as the hegemony fleet approached. When we arrived at Earth, we found the human home fleet waiting for us. About 800 ships. They were outnumbered 6-1. The tactical display showed the two fleets facing each other in the darkness of space. Admiral Thekvar sent the standard surrender demand. He told the humans they had 1 hour to evacuate their planet before we began bombardment. Zekthor paused. The room was completely silent. The human response came exactly 60 minutes later. A single word, no. The Vorthan instructor clicked his mandibles. They chose to fight impossible odds rather than abandon their homeworld? Yes, but that was not the surprising part, Zekthor said. The surprising part was what happened when the battle began. The hologram showed the fleets opening fire on each other. For the first few hours, everything went according to plan. We had superior numbers and firepower. We were slowly but steadily destroying the human fleet. The display showed hegemony ships systematically overwhelming human defenses. Then something happened that changed everything. The human fleet began retreating toward Earth. Zekthor walked closer to the hologram. At first we thought they were running away. But humans do not run away. They were leading us into a trap. The display showed human ships falling back toward their home planet. As we pursued them closer to Earth, human defense platforms came online. Orbital stations, lunar bases, asteroid fortresses. The entire Sol system was one giant weapon. The hologram lit up with defensive installations throughout the system. But even that was not enough to stop 5,000 hegemony ships. We continued advancing, destroying human defenses as we went. The battle simulation showed hegemony forces slowly fighting their way toward Earth. We reached orbit around the human homeworld after 18 hours of continuous fighting. 3/4 of the human fleet was destroyed. Their orbital defenses were in ruins. Zekthor's voice became very quiet. That is when Admiral Thekvar made his final mistake. What did he do? Asked a Drexy cadet. He sent a message to the human government. He told them they had fought bravely, but now they must surrender to save their planet. The display showed the damaged fleets facing each other in Earth's orbit. The human leader responded personally this time. President Chen herself sent a video message to our entire fleet. Zekthor pressed a button. A holographic image appeared of a middle-aged human woman with tired eyes but a steady voice. She said, "Admiral Thekvar, you have fought well. You have proven your strength. But you have made one critical error in your planning. The hologram of President Chen continued speaking. You assume that Earth is something we cannot afford to lose. You are wrong. Earth is something we cannot afford to let you have. Zekthor deactivated the image. At first, we did not understand what she meant. What did she mean? Asked a Catharian cadet. We found out 30 seconds later, Zekthor said grimly. Every remaining human ship in the system suddenly accelerated directly toward Earth. The tactical display showed human vessels diving toward their own planet. They were not retreating. They were not surrendering. They were going to ram their entire fleet into their homeworld rather than let us capture it. The cadets gasped in horror. But that still was not the worst part, Zekthor continued. As the human ships approached Earth, something else happened. The hologram showed energy readings spiking across the planet's surface. Humans activated weapons they had kept hidden throughout the entire war. Planet-killing weapons built into the Earth itself. Zekthor's voice became haunted. They were going to destroy their own homeworld, with themselves on it, rather than let the hegemony have it. The room was absolutely silent. No one moved. No one even seemed to breathe. Admiral Thekvar realized what was happening and immediately sent a ceasefire order. He offered to withdraw the fleet if humans would stop their suicide attack. Did they stop? Whispered a Vorthan cadet. President Chen responded with another message. She said, Admiral, you have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing your fleet. If even one hegemony ship is still in this system after that time, we will proceed with Earth's destruction. Zekthor sat down heavily. Admiral Thekvar ordered immediate retreat. 5,000 ships fled the Sol system as fast as they could travel. The display showed the massive hegemony fleet racing away from Earth. But the lesson was not over yet, Zekthor said. As we retreated, we received one final message from the humans. What did they say? Asked a Drexy instructor. President Chen sent Admiral Thekvar a technical data package. Specifications for weapons humanity had developed during the war but never used. Zekthor pressed a button. The hologram showed weapon designs that made the cadets recoil in fear. Star destroyers, planet crackers, system killers. Weapons that could destroy entire star systems and everything in them. The technical specifications scrolled past, showing devices of unimaginable destructive power. President Chen included a personal note with the data, Zekthor said. She wrote, Admiral Thekvar, these are the weapons we chose not to use during our war. We built them in the first year of the conflict but decided they were too dangerous to deploy near inhabited systems. Zekthor looked at each face in the room. She continued, We are sharing these designs with you to demonstrate that humanity was never fighting at full strength. We were holding back to preserve the possibility of peace. The room remained completely silent. The final line of her message was, If this war continues, we will no longer hold back. Choose wisely. Zekthor deactivated the hologram. 3 days later, the Hegemony Council voted unanimously to offer humans a peace treaty. A Catharian officer raised his hand. Sir, what were the terms of the peace? Complete hegemony withdrawal from human space. Recognition of human sovereignty. Establishment of a neutral zone between our territories. Zekthor stood up slowly. I was part of the delegation that met with human representatives to finalize the treaty. What were the humans like in person? Asked a Drexy cadet. Polite, professional, reasonable. Zekthor paused. And absolutely terrifying. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The human delegation was led by General Morrison, one of their military commanders. During a break in negotiations, I asked him a question that had been bothering me. What did you ask? I asked him if humans would really have destroyed Earth rather than let us capture it. Zekthor turned back to face the room. General Morrison looked at me with the same expression I might use when discussing the weather. He said, Commander Zekthor, we had similar devices placed on every human world. If you had captured any of our colonies, we would have destroyed them all rather than let you use them against us. The cadets stared at him in shock. He continued, We were prepared to commit species suicide rather than accept slavery. Does that answer your question? Zekthor returned to his chair. That conversation taught me the final lesson about humans. They are not just willing to die for their beliefs. They are willing to take their entire civilization with them. The room remained quiet for a long moment. Sir, said a young Catharian cadet. "Why are you telling us these stories? The war ended 20 years ago." Zekthor looked at her with his remaining eye. "Because humans are still out there.